Hello to you out there. My name is Kurt Roskoff. Thank you for watching, listening. This is Who Cares with Cares Foundation, hosted by my compadre over here to my side, Todd Lingel. So we've got quite a program lined up for you today. I'm from the World of Ability Podcast Network, and we are ever so pleased, proud, and privileged to have this show on our network. It's inspired from a story where Todd's mother and sister passed away from a collision caused by a driver who unfortunately practiced drunk driving, drinking and driving. So we got that, and many other things have spawned from that childhood experience of Todd's and the legacy of his mother and sister. So here we are. Todd, take it away. Let's share more of your story and what's going on at Cares Foundation.
All right, Kurt. Well, thank you for the introduction. Appreciate that, and welcome everyone. Like Kurt was saying, CARES Foundation came about because my mom and sister were killed by a drunk driver. And back in the day, I'm 52 now. I was 3 years old, and back in the day, it was the old adage of "buck up, buttercup." You just kind of close things up and move forward and talk about it. You didn't go to counseling. You were a weirdo if you went to counseling. So I always felt like there was something really weird, that feeling that I didn't know what it was. In my mid 30s, fast forward, I got depressed and took some medication for that and went worse and almost committed suicide at one point. So I went through quite a bit in my life. So what we do at CARES Foundation is I go around and I speak to kids all over the country, and I talk to kids about four main things that I think could be a tripping hazard, if you will, for kids today. One would be peer pressure, which has been around forever. And I tell kids, say, hey, I'm your friend now. So you can tell people that, hey, my friend's mom and sister were killed by a drunk driver. You say that, the peer pressure goes away. Then I talk about my testimony and about me almost committing suicide. Then I talk about social media awareness, kids not knowing who they're talking to on the other side of their cell phone. And I don't use the word stupid hardly ever, but I tell the kids, if you're going to be stupid enough to meet somebody who they're talking to on the other side of their cell phone and they don't know who they are, take 10 friends with you. And then the other thing I talk about is distracted driving. I have a personal story for all of those that I talk with the kids about. And that's what we're about here at CARES Foundation. And some of the things we have coming forward is Camp CARES. We want to put on for kids that have been affected by drugs or alcohol, and also veterans, kids that have been affected by suicide. So those are things that we focus on. Kids Life program that's coming up. I'll explain that when it comes and gets developed. It's going to be a great program. And so, yeah, just looking forward to everything we have going on. And the biggest thing and the most important thing is to save a life. And that's what we're trying to help prevent someone else from having to go through what I had to growing up. So on today's episode here, I wanted to really dive into communication. I think communication is key between parents and students or teens. And I think communication actually is important for everybody, between husband and wife, just anyone. Communication is key for everything. And I'm just going to, I pulled up the dictionary meaning of communication. I'm going to read that. So just the meaning here, communication, the imparting or exchanging of information or news. At the moment I am in communication with London, that's an example. A letter or message containing information or news. The successful conveying or sharing of ideas and feelings. Social contact, here's an example. She gave him some hope of a return or at least their future communication. And it derives from the origin Latin communicare, or communicatio, Old French communication. And I know I'm not probably stating those correctly, but hey, you know what? It is what it is. And it says late Middle English from Old French communication. So that's the dictionary meaning. Now, when I go and talk to kids, back in my day, communication and respect. I'll put that respect right in there with it. is kids today, before they really want to get in and communicate, they say, hey, we want some respect up front. And I'm going, huh, okay, that's different, because when I was growing up, you had to earn respect, and that communication came after that. And so as I talk with these kids, it's that communication and respect almost at the same time when you start. And then the kids start opening up to you and talking more about things, because I'll ask questions like, you know, what frustrates you in today's world? And I'll get lots of different responses to that. When I go into group homes, I ask, have you ever heard of the um, what do you say? I can't never remember the name of this, but if you have you ever been told that you are from a group home, so you must be a bad kid? And they're like, oh, absolutely. I have heard that many times. I said, okay, well, let's change that. I think it's a good thing. And I talk about why I think it's a good thing. And that gets that communication going back and forth. And they open up to that, because what I tell them, especially at group homes, is that all of us in life are going to have a choice: turn right and do something positive and good, or turn left and do something bad and maybe end up in prison. And I tell these kids, we all have that decision to make. And I think they're lucky being in a group home, because they have that opportunity to make that choice now, instead of like kids that are still being raised by their parents and the parents taking care of everything. Those kids don't really know what life's about yet. And so I tell them, you're at an advantage for that. Yes, it's unfortunate what you've had to go through, but it's not what we've gone through, it's how we come out of it is what really matters. Even though it really stinks and really is bad when we're going through something, it was terrible for me when I was going through what I went through in my mid 30s and losing my mom, my sister. But I think I've come out of it pretty darn well, and trying to help people. And that's what I tell these kids and communicate to them. And so as I talk with them and get that going, it's kind of funny when I'm talking, especially group homes, they'll have their hoodie up, and once I talk and they start talking, their hoodie comes down. They start sitting up on the edge of the couch. I'm like, okay, they're engaged now. So that's another form of communication, is your body language. And so these kids, I'm learning a lot from. And so as a parent, I would say, listen, and not only listen to what they're saying, but maybe listen to the body language. What's the back cursor? Is there something that they're just not fully giving to you? Because those are keys and focuses, I believe, that we can key on to know if a your student is going through something else that they don't really want to talk about. Because a lot of times what I get is the kids don't want to talk to their parents if it's about something super, super important, unless they have like a huge and great communication with their parents. And so that's just huge for me. So Kurt, I was going to ask you, what have you experienced in as far as communication and working with the students and individuals you work with?
Well, as far as students, communication is evolving into a place where it's snippets. You got to really pick, what you're going to say in the first, set of words, the first sentence, the first couple sentences, because, you know, we have, social media and devices and entertainment, and, like right now we're using Facebook and YouTube to share this message. And, when you watch a YouTube video, there's other videos just sitting there waiting for you to jump over to them. Or on Facebook, you just scroll to the next, so we really have to, do what they talk about in the military, bottom line up front. Like, what are you trying to tell me? And then the idea is why. Why are they listening? Because in
Yeah.
this instant gratification society, task shifting, that's what a lot of people are saying. There's a term that's out there, multitasking, and a lot of people are trying to break through the spattery of that term, that the brain really does not multitask. There isn't literally two things happening through the brain at the same time. It's just shifting back and forth. That brain
Yeah.
is trying to fight. Okay, I'm listening to Todd now. I'm seeing something else out my window there, and I'm back to Todd over there. You know, so
Yeah.
that's part of what's going on there. So when you talk about making safety decisions, that's an element too, because today's teens and youth can find themselves a lot of times knowing better
Yeah.
and having a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda, and a lot of hindsight and regret. And I've done stuff or I do stuff in human trafficking. I mean, as far as today, I maybe feel like I got to get back to it a little better right now, but human trafficking, and a lot of those things are preying upon insecurities
Yeah.
and really, dysfunctional communication. So when a child has a communication experience, when a teenager has a dysfunctional communication dynamic with their parents, the the perpetrators of the crime, the human traffickers, are
Yeah.
able to make that work because there's an emotional need being fulfilled by the criminal
Yeah.
through their communication.
Yeah.
So if you want to look at that, this is a combat to protect our teens, and so so like yesterday, my daughter got her driver's license. So
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So your message is squarely in our house and in our house, and the whole thing. And so as a parent, I really hope that everything that we talk about here is firmly planted in my daughter, and can trust it. But it's things that you just always got to check on, because peer pressure, is a real thing.
Yeah.
you know there's the idea that sometimes these teens are doing stuff to each other that it's like, why are they doing that? They're not realizing lack of compassion. It's not that they're not a compassionate teenager, it's that they're acting in a way that doesn't match compassion, but they're doing it, I would say, because they have something that they're experiencing, that what they're doing is worth it to them,
Yeah.
and they're taking care of themselves, which the whole self-care thing, and no one takes care of number one like number one, so you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But this happens with the teenagers, is they get this friction, and a lot of people in the adult community are fearful for this dynamic where people could be in the same room, they could be sitting on the same couch or the same bench, shoulder to shoulder, but they're picking this up and saying, I'm gonna share my thought on here, rather than turning their head and talking to right next to them or across the table. you know
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have to interrupt because I got to tell a story.
yeah
So um, I a couple stories. So talking about communication and stuff, and how back in my day, or our day, I'd say, really cell phones weren't around. And so I tell my son and my daughter a story about when I played basketball. I didn't have a car. I would go to the payphone, and I would pick up the phone. At the time, you could say, I'd like to make a collect call too, and I'd tell my home phone number, and the operator would get on and ring, and my stepmom or my dad would get on the phone, and his operator goes, "Would you accept the collect call from caller? Say your name." And I'd say Todd, and they're like, "No." Well, that was the key for them to come pick me up from basketball practice back then. My son's like, "Really? You did that?" I'm like, "Yeah, that." And I actually found a payphone that actually was working one time and showed him what it looked like. It was crazy. And then again, like what you just talked about, kids talking with their phone and turning around to the kid right behind them. I coached high school basketball. Communication. I had a defense that was called a matchup zone defense, and you had to really communicate on the defense and to make it work. And the kids were not communicating, and so I was thinking about, man, how am I going to get these kids to communicate better? And our first away game, everybody got on the bus. The bus was quiet. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop on the bus. I'm going, these are teenage kids. Why are they not loud? You know? And I turn around, I walk back there, and they're all on their cell phones. And I talked to this one kid. I said, "Who are you talking to?" "Oh, I'm talking to so and so." And he was right in front of him. It's like, turn around and talk to him. And so I got to thinking about that, and I had a parent meeting, and I said, "Hey, so no cell phones. If they come on the bus, the cell phones go in my bag. If you need to contact your child, they can call me." And so it was amazing that first road trip without cell phones. The kids didn't know what to do. There was just a little bit of chatter, but some of them were just sat there. And then one of my players came to me and said, "Hey, can I like bring some cards or something like that to play?" And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Bring a boom box if you want to." And he kind of looks at me like, "What's a boom box?" And I'm going, ask your mom or dad. So he did, and he brought one with batteries in it. And so then they started playing music, and it got a little bit louder, and they started talking. And it's like, okay, this is great. Well, it also correlated on the basketball court because my defense, wow, it started really blooming because they started talking more. And it was amazing by the end of the season how even the parents were starting to notice at home that the communication had picked up. And so I think what I've learned from that, and I try to tell families when I talk to parents, that take a couple nights or evenings in the week, put the electronics away, play a board game, do something that is communicating with your kids on that positive level. Because what you're doing is you're just building that relationship as a family unit to where if your kids are in trouble, they're going to feel comfortable reaching out to you because you've built that communication. It's the kids that don't feel comfortable calling their parents are the ones that make that choice to get in the car with someone that's been drinking, and that's when things can happen. And so I just urge parents to open that line of communication. Put your cell phones down. I've seen many couples sitting at a restaurant like this, and they're not even talking to each other. It's like, wow. And in the same basketball team, I asked them a question. I said, "How are you going to communicate when you get married?" Because not only my job as a basketball coach was to coach them, but it was also to help them grow to be good men. And so I would ask them questions like that. It's like, man, what are you going to do? How are you going to communicate? Is it going to be you're going to text each other, sit next to each other, or are you actually going to talk? And and so I think that's what we need to get back into today is putting the electronics. And don't get me wrong, electronics are great. They've given us lots of things, quick computer at our fingertips, all of those types of things, great things, but also it stops that communication. So I urge, parents and anyone with a teen or just in a relationship, wherever, put them down, put the electronics down a couple times a week and just get back to basics of communicating. If it's go for a walk every evening, get your exercise in and just talk to your spouse or talk to your child. Take one of your kids out every night and do just a little bit of one-to-one with your kids and just open that line of communication because that is so key to everything that I see and that I've talked with kids about. Um, and the other thing is too, like I was talking about, pay attention to what they're really saying and maybe behind the scenes. In my past, I've been in sales, and the talk was pay attention to the need behind the need. So if a child's talking to you, they may not be telling you they're hurting, but just pay attention again to the nonverbal communication, those types of things, and then dive into it to where you care. Really bring that across because if you don't dive deep into a child that's hurting, they're not maybe so easy to just pull it out and tell you about it. But find different ways. And I'll tell you this right here and right now. I give my card out to everybody that I talk to, that they can call me, and I don't care what time of the night it is. My cell phone's on. If I hear it, I wake up, I will answer it. And I will help a parent and a child going through something to help communicate. I'll be a buffer between the two because that's what we're about here at Cares Foundation. I truly care about everyone that I talk to, and I only want the best for everyone, even Kurt. A little joke there, sorry, but but I do, and it's it's sad when kids take things out and do things, and they're like nobody really cared. That's just that. Oh man, that gets my heart. I was at an event last night called the Hub, where they has a place where kids can go that couldn't make it in the regular system, or adults can go and get their GED. And I had my table set up, and kids would come in there and talk. We'd talk about things, and I'd get to talk to them about my story, and it was great communication. It's like, wow, okay. And a couple kids had their cell phones out. I said, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? They're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, you mind putting that up? We can chat. Yeah, sure, sure. And so it just got back to, again, and I knew I was going to talk about communication today, and it's like, huh, it just brought that to the forefront of, okay, put the phones down and let's chat. And I took one of my deals I take is I had this blow up football guy that has the hole through you throw a football through. Well, I have the kids and adults do it with drug goggles on, and most of the time they throw it really high and hit the football player in the head. And so just that fun was be able to talk with them and communicate. Um, and so I know we're getting closer to time, but it's just, I don't know. It's, I guess for me growing up and my kids, it was a little bit frustrating. And I know it can be frustrating as a parent trying to get out of your teens to talk, but find out what is important to them. Maybe it's football, maybe it's basketball, um, maybe it's art. Do the activity that they're interested in, and then start talking as you're doing that, and that communication will open up. Um, so, anything to add, Kurt, from what I've been rambling on about here?
Yeah, well, with the message of drugs and alcohol, distracted driving, these things that we want our teens to make responsible choices for, you know, we can consider that a teenager really is not predisposed to say that they're going to do any of that. So what happens then? What happens is that, in the teen experience, something becomes missing. Maybe there's a regret or a remorse or a shame, or there's something they're grappling with. And, there's almost like a survival instinct that they want better and they yearn for something. And so when these destructive decisions come into play, like I put the example of human trafficking,
Yeah,
or maybe it's recreational sex or whatever it is. There's these things that can happen that becomes not what the teen really wants to do, but they do it because something is out of balance, and they're in a moment where that thing, that temptation, that lapse of judgment becomes something that serves a purpose for them. So the
yeah,
importance of, like you say, the idea of earning respect, the idea is that that's all well and good, that is at play, but to not do stuff because they haven't earned respect, or not to give them every bit of respect that we can deliver. We should really be there, because if they're not getting these you know validations and elements of satisfaction from us, they're
yeah,
going to get it from somebody, somewhere, somehow. And so that thing of, I know I should not be drinking and driving, I know my friend should not be drinking and driving, that self-confidence to step in and be the one to disrupt the destructive decision, the one to interrupt the moment, and to have that strong will. Because in these social situations with peer pressure, it
yeah,
takes a resolve, it takes a steadfast approach, it takes a stubbornness
yeah.
to say there's no other way this is going to go but the safe way.
Yeah.
And a teenager, a child, a person, any person, is not going to be in this place to do that unless they are in this place of a solid footing, a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And so, as parents, the parents' community, a friend to another friend, another peer, this is what we can do. The more we help that person be the best version of themselves, the
Absolutely.
better they're going to receive these messages and execute them. And I do
Yeah.
want to add that our friend Brian Gibson, founder and president of Project Diehard, is wanting to share with our show here that Project Diehard will bring veterans with their families to our facilities. I'm an ambassador with Project Diehard, and so what we're talking about
Awesome.
there is Project Diehard combats veteran suicide by spreading hope to veterans. And so, if this dynamic is in a household where there's a teen, in that household, so this is a human services reality that if we
Yeah.
want to serve an individual to come in and to account for everybody that's in their support network is important as well. So I wanted to add that and give a shout out to Brian and thanks for supporting this program. Who cares with Cares Foundation? But
Absolutely, Brian. Thank you. I
yeah,
appreciate that. And we are all in support of anyone that's helping teens. It takes all of us to come together to be able to help all the kids that are out there. And Project Die Hard is a great thing. And that's another thing, like what we had talked about our Camp Cares, is veterans, kids that have been affected by suicide. Like I said, I almost committed suicide. So we're all about veterans and everyone helping others. So Brian, I really appreciate that, and Kurt, thank you for that as well, because I know you're involved in that big time. So, but yeah, so today's been really eye opening. And when I was talking or looking at communication, I really looked at myself. Like, do I communicate good enough to others? And am I putting my cell phone down, or am I on that thing too much? And so it's like, it really made me look at myself like, okay, yeah, a lot of things have to be done online today. And I do a lot of Zoom calls with people. And, but it's like, man, I'm going to start doing one or two face to face stuff, even though it takes a more of an effort to be a go somewhere. But you know what? I want that interaction. I think I've missed that to a point, because back in my day with sales, it was you met at the kitchen table kind of thing, not over Zoom call. And so I want to get back to a little bit more of that just for myself and communicating with others. And and again, I'll put it out there. Cares Foundation. I will right now, my personal cell phone number is 541-490-5171. Or you can also reach me at 602-552-1375. If any teen needs help, they can call me no matter what time of day it is. And if anyone, actually, not just teens, anyone needs help, let me know. I will help you. If you're underage, yes, your parents are going to be involved, or your guardian. It has to be that way. But I will be a buffer between the two of you and open that line of communication. And so that's all I've had for today. Man, this has been great, because sometimes you come up with a topic, you're not sure how it's going to go, because this is all live. This is not recorded type thing. So it's like this communication between Kurt and I um, is a great thing to learn from today. I've learned a lot from to doing this today, and just the fact of, okay, my kids were raised up and in college and stuff, and Kurt, you have one at home still, so it's like, okay, I get the little different aspect from you talking, because you're in that currently, and and so that's a great. What you said is all great, and I just encourage, again, parents out there, listen to your teen, your smaller kids, take them out, spend some time with them without the electronics, get them off of playing video games, get them doing something outside, and just enjoy being a family and having your kids, because they grow up so fast that boom, they're out of the house and doing their own thing, and they're like, and then when they get to what 15 years old, parents, they just don't want to have anything to do with you until they're probably 20 something. So yeah, keep that line of communication open, and give your kid a hug and tell them that they're loved. And so that's all I've got for today. Kurt, have any last words?
Yeah, I just will close out for this has been an important topic on any topic you want to address. Communication is important, so it's been good to dive in for what Cares Foundation does, the role of communication and the message we're trying to send, and have this all work because, like you said, this is about saving lives. And so yeah, if we can make adjustments in communication and open up ourselves to just really receive whatever our teens and those around us, and sometimes it may be cross to another family.
Yeah,
Maybe um, some of these things are tough for another family, or it's about timing too. So timing can be tricky, and it's one thing I do with our daughter is I say, my wife and I are always here to help, mom and dad are always here to help, but if they can get that help from somebody else, not that we don't want to, but our timing might be off for them, and jump right in and open up to somebody else, and might be
yeah,
somebody else's parent. Don't
yeah,
be afraid to, because if our daughter's trying to reach us on the phone and we're not responding to the phone, it's like, well, figure out who else is out there to
yeah,
give you a temporary bit of advice and help your confidence with what you're dealing with, or any situation.
yeah,
Be unfortunately something happened because there was drinking and driving, hopefully not a death or something, but could be a vehicle damage or something, and
yeah.
could need help. So yeah, communication is key. So anything else before we close, Todd, or was that it from your side?
I just want to thank everybody that's going to watch this, and give us feedback. Go on our website at carestoday.org. Again, that carestoday.org. And the only way we survive is off of donations. So if you feel like you could do that, that would be wonderful, and we'd accept that. And it is a tax deduction. We are a 501c3. So that's all I have today for Cares Foundation. Again, thank you, Kurt, and thank you, Brian, for being on.
There we go. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.